What if I told you that even a small branch of cherry blossoms like this one can begin with just a few very simple shapes and then be brought to life with one fountain pen and one consistent line? Today, I'm going to show you how I build this small cherry blossom composition from a very simple sketch and then bring it to life in ink while creating texture, depth, contrast, and visual flow across the page. And if you're trying to improve your pen and ink skills, this process will help you better understand not only how to draw delicate flowers, but also how to arrange them into a composition that feels balanced, soft, and alive. I want to start by building a simple structure that helps me place the blossoms and define their direction. As you may notice, I started by placing two circular shapes and one oval shape to map out each blossom. This helped me establish the direction of each flower and the way it will be facing on the page. And once those basic shapes are in place, I begin shaping the petals more organically. Now, cherry blossoms are typically characterized by having 5 petals. So you can see me using that first circular shape as a guide and dividing it to build each petal one by one, working from the center and outward. And instead of copying every edge literally, I'm thinking about gentle variation. Some petals open wider, some fold slightly, some overlap, and some catch more light than others. And regarding the composition, you can already see that I'm letting one blossom sit a little higher, one lower to the left, and one more centered and forward. That already gives the drawing a more natural rhythm. Even in a small botanical drawing, I'm thinking about balance, movement, and how the eye will travel through the page. If the flowers were all placed at the same height or with the exact same spacing, the composition would feel much more static. By varying their placement, I can create a more realistic and natural composition. I'm also considering how the blossoms, leaves, and branch interact with one another. The flowers are meant to remain the focal point, while the darker leaves and branch will eventually help ground the composition and create contrast. So at this stage, I'm not only sketching individual elements, I'm also shaping the overall visual flow of the piece. And if this kind of flower breakdown is helpful, let me know in the comments. I always love knowing whether you enjoy seeing more of the construction process. Now, before I start inking, I want to take a moment to feel this fountain pen and share a little bit about my experience with it so far. Just as a quick disclaimer, this video is not sponsored. Although I have collaborated with Ferris Wheel in the past, I purchased this pen myself. In a previous video, while drawing a peony composition, I talked a little about fountain pens and their history. And a few of you had questions about the pen I was using and how the filling mechanism worked. So I thought this would be the perfect chance to show you a little bit more of that here. Now, this specific pen is completely new to me, and this is the first time I'm using it, so I'm going to be sharing a few honest first impressions along the way, as I usually do in most of my videos. And honestly, because fountain pens can be a little pricey and I didn't want to accidentally damage this one, I decided to get an ink from the same brand as well. That way you can't go wrong. Although in general, most fountain pens are compatible with most fountain pen inks, as long as they're made specifically for this purpose. But it's always a good idea to double-check the manufacturer's recommendations before mixing products. Now, if you've never used a fountain pen before, charging it simply means filling it with ink so the nib can start writing or drawing smoothly. Depending on the pen, this can happen through a cartridge, a converter, or another filling mechanism. This here is a good example of a standard international mechanism. One important tip here is to take your time. Fountain pens are beautiful tools, but they do ask for a little more patience than something like a fine liner. And if you're a beginner, here are a few general tips. First, fill slowly and wipe away excess ink gently, like I'm doing here. And it seems like I'm having a very clean experience, but it can be a little messy when you're just starting. So again, be patient and enjoy those messy moments if they happen. That's also part of the fun. And now that the charger is filled, I'm going to assemble the pen bag and test the flow on scrap paper before going straight onto the final piece. And if you're new to fountain pens, remember that they respond best to a lighter touch than many people expect. You don't need to press hard. In fact, pressing too much can make the experience worse and can even damage the nib over time. And moving on to the inking stage, the very first thing I want to establish is my light source. Here, as I'm showing you on the paper, the light source is coming from the upper left. And now, I'm going to start inking the little stems in the center of this flower. I do this first so the lines remain clear and don't get lost later as I begin building the shading. And now that I started inking my petals, because I'm working with one steady line weight, I can't depend on switching to a thinner or thicker pen to create contrast. So instead, I'm using line placement and line density. And this is such an important concept in pen and ink. Darkness doesn't only come from thicker lines, it also comes from more lines, closer lines, and better placed lines. And as you can see, in the clearest areas, where the light is really falling across the petals, I'm using very small and delicate touches, almost like I'm barely touching the paper, creating marks that feel almost like dots while still moving in the same direction as the form. And this is actually where I'm starting to learn a little more about this pen. Because if you noticed a moment ago, those very light touches made the ink skip slightly on the paper. So I had to go back over those areas with a little more pressure to get the smaller lines to appear. Which, it's interesting so far. Getting to know your pen is also part of the learning curve. You really do need to spend some time with it before it starts to feel familiar in your hand. Every pen behaves a little differently, and it can take a while before you feel completely comfortable and confident using it. And because I really want you to see the whole process, but I also don't want you to fall asleep while you do so, I'll be including a few time lapses here and there. Moving into the center of this blossom, I'd like to point that even though this area is small, it's also very important because it anchors the flower and gives it direction. Well, the ink skipped the paper here, but again, I'm just learning about this pen. As I move across the petals, I'm keeping the light source in mind. For this drawing, the light is coming from the upper left. That means the upper left facing areas should remain lighter, while the lower right sides, inner folds, and overlapping sections can carry more texture and shadow. This is what helps create volume. Without a clear light source, even a beautiful flower drawing can feel flat. And if you enjoy botanical drawing, pen and ink, and like to learn about different pens and tools, Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on the next tutorials. Now back to our cherry blossoms. Before adding marks, I also like to ask, where is this petal turning away from the light? Where would a neighboring petal cast a shadow? And where do I need to preserve openness? Notice that I'm not filling the petals evenly. Instead, I'm concentrating marks near the base of the petals, inside overlap zones, and in the slightly recessed areas around the center. That gives the blossoms form while still letting them breathe. And this is one of the biggest beginner tips I can give you. Leave more white than you think you need, especially when drawing pale flowers. It's very tempting to keep adding lines because pen and ink feels satisfying. But with delicate subjects, restraint is one of the best skills. And for intermediate artists, this is also a great moment to practice mark variation through rhythm. Even if the nib size stays the same, you can still create a richer surface by slightly changing line length, spacing, and direction. Some marks can be short, some can radiate outward, some can sit in groups, and some can remain isolated. That subtle rhythm helps the petals feel more natural and organic. Now I'm moving into the leaves, and this is where the drawing starts gaining a lot more weight and contrast. Because the flowers are pale and delicate, the leaves give an opportunity to introduce deeper values and stronger textures. Leaves usually have more pronounced structures than petals. They have directional veins, firmer edges, more visible planes, and in this case, they also sit lower in the composition where I want a darker visual anchor. So compared to the flowers, I can be much bolder here. You can see that I'm still respecting the light source from the upper left. Now, notice the shadows created by the little bud to your left and those created by the flowers over the leaves. Because right there is where we're going to go a little harder with our density of lines. And if you've been enjoying this tutorial so far, this would be a great moment to like this video. It really supports the channel and helps me continue making detailed art lessons like this one. And back to our leaf. Here, you can see how the veins help me organize the shading. They're not only decorative, they tell me how the leaf is folding, and they help me guide my hatching in a way that supports the form. If you're a beginner, one useful tip is to avoid making every section of the leaf equally dark. Try to think in larger value shapes first. Ask yourself, where is the leaf most in the shadow? Where is it catching a little more light? And where do I want the eyes to go on the paper? And for intermediate artists, this is a great chance to practice letting your hatching follow the topography of the form. Even subtle directional changes can make a leaf feel more convincing. I also love the contrast happening here between the softness of the flower and the sharper, darker presence of the leaves. That contrast is part of what makes the whole composition feel more alive and realistic. So if you've ever been afraid to darker values in botanical drawing, remember, sometimes you need those darker areas to make the delicate parts glow. And while I build this tiny leaf here, I'm going to go quiet for a moment so you can fully appreciate the process. Now I'm moving on to the branch. Branches are wonderful because they bring structure and tension into an otherwise soft composition. The flowers are rounded and open, the leaves are layered and flowing, but the branch gives everything direction. Here, I want the branch to feel woody, slightly textured, and strong enough to support the blooms without pulling too much attention away from them. So I'm using line and hatching to suggest form, but I'm also allowing some irregularity. A branch should not feel too polished. Tiny changes in contour, small textural marks, and darker shadow edges help it feel more natural. At this point, I'm also still getting a feel for this fountain pen. And I have to say, I'm enjoying the way it handles these more expressive organic lines. It has a smoothness to it that works really nicely for this kind of subject. Again, these are just first impressions as part of the process, but I do like how steady and fluid it feels so far. Now, I'm entering that final phase where I begin adding cross-hatching and those last darker accents that help unify the drawing. Cross-hatching is one of my favorite ways to build tone in pen and ink because it allows you to deepen value gradually while still keeping the drawing airy and alive. In this piece, I'm using it very intentionally. Not everywhere, not just because it looks nice, but in places where I want more weight, more shadow, and more structure. One thing I always try to remember with cross-hatching is that more is not automatically better. It's very easy to keep going, but the best cross-hatching usually has purpose. It follows the form, it respects the light, and it stops before the drawing loses breath. So if you're practicing this, I really encourage you to pause every so often, lean back, and look at the whole piece, not just the area your pen is touching. And as we're getting closer to the end of this video, I thought I'd leave you with a few final thoughts on this fountain pen. So, would I buy it again? So far, yes. I really love the brand and I really love the products they make. Now, would I use it specifically for drawing flowers in pen and ink? Absolutely, if there is literally nothing else to draw with. As much as I love the look of my pen, I have to say it was a little challenging to create the textures and lines I wanted in my drawing. You may have seen me skipping lines with the pen, and whether it may have been for lack of experience using it, the truth is that would have never happened with a micron. There are tons of other pens and options specifically made for drawing that will give you a much better result for just a fraction of what this pen costs. Also keep in mind that this pen was made for calligraphy, not drawing. And here's the final piece. And if you want me to keep creating tutorials like this from sketch to ink, with more insight into line work, texture, and botanical structure, make sure you're subscribed and let me know in the comments what flower you'd like me to draw next. See you next time!